Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I was trying to delay starting this because I heard the trash truck in our neighborhood, and I was hoping that would get out of the way. So, thank you so much for tuning in, for joining me. I see lots of hellos. I see Marie is asking us what we're going to discover today in French, which I love that attitude. We are here to discover art from the schoolyard, which is great. We've got Mary, we have Zilpa, who is, in Australia. So it's probably 11 o'clock at night, maybe? Midnight? It might even be later than that for Zilpa. But yes, Mary, Sandra, really great to see you. It looks like it's midnight. Yes, thanks for confirming that. Mary, we've got Robert and Tina, which is awesome. I wonder if their pup Max is also watching, or if he's busy chasing squirrels. So hello to everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. So I want to start off this bulletin just by talking about the iPad course, which is coming up, but not really just about iPads, but about the art that people have been making in preparation for the iPad course. And students are making things on their iPads and also in their sketchbooks, kind of inspired by what students have been discovering about the iPad and digital drawing. And I wanted to share some really fun drawings with you that I've been seeing in the iPad group in the schoolyard. So whether or not you're taking the course, definitely jump into the iPad group. I love this sketch from Beth that looks like it could have been on just a piece of dark paper with a really lovely ochre pencil color. She did this contour line drawing of her hand, and Deb actually did this really wacky kind of just doodle, testing out brushes while she watched the weather report. And I just want to say quickly to all of our Mid and Southern Atlantic friends, I hope that you're staying safe and dry with all this Dorian stuff. But Deb was doing some doodles, testing out her brushes, which looks really fun. And I loved Annette shared this image, and she said, I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm having fun doing it. So I love that Annette shared this kind of inky, splotchy doodle with us. And I am now noticing that she chose Juicy Cantaloupe as a background color because it is literally blending right into the wall of my office, which is kind of funny. And I also wanted to share that some people were doing an exercise this week as part of Draw Tip Tuesday with Kosha. And she actually talked about choosing color palettes and how you can choose colors from all around you to use in your artwork. And I love that students were using this tool kind of in their sketchbooks and also in their iPads. But for instance, Charmin did this exercise with a color palette she chose, inspired by a peacock feather, which is beautiful. Alicia was just finding color palettes all around her. This is a photo she took of her morning cuppa and the colors that sort of came out of that. And I just really liked that students are finding these really fun tools to use for capturing color palettes. And if you check out the notes from this bulletin in the schoolyard, I'm going to share some links to those tools. Apparently there's an Adobe Capture app that's free that you can capture color palettes from photos on your phone. And Pantone also has an app that another student shared for identifying palettes. So if you have your phone on you and you see a scene at a park that you really love, you can snap a photo of it and it will kind of give you a little rundown of the color palette that you're seeing so that you can use it in a drawing perhaps. So thanks to everyone for sharing those resources. It's been so fun to watch people getting warmed up for iPad. I also hear someone laying an egg right now out in our chicken coop, so she's being a little loud. Sorry about that. And I want to move on and share just some questions and ideas that came up in the schoolyard this week. So Larry Keys shared this beautiful woodcut print that he did. What looks like an ocean scene or a beach scene with a lighthouse. And he went away to a workshop to learn wood cutting to make these printmaking blocks. And he actually asked a question in the schoolyard about getting his work framed and what are some services, maybe some websites or companies that everyone uses to frame their art. So I know we talk a lot about sketchbooks, keeping things in a sketchbook, but I love that Larry is making different kinds of art and trying to find a way to preserve that and share it at home. So if you have any tips for Larry, check out the schoolyard, his post on framing and some tips for him. It would be really helpful. I also wanted to share with you that each week in the schoolyard, Danny and Kosha, the co-founders of Sketchbook Skool, do a lot of writing, and sometimes they write articles based on discussions that you all are having in the schoolyard. And each week they kind of listen in and see what students are talking about, and they share those articles that they write. And usually we put them in the discovery section as featured posts in the schoolyard. And I wanted to share, Kosha did an article this week about being mindless instead of mindful. Sometimes when you are exhausted and you've had a long day, you just want a way to be creative that doesn't take up brain space. And I know sometimes it can be challenging if you're exhausted to just get your sketchbook out. So Kosha wrote an article about just when you're not feeling it and how to be creative, even on days when you just can't bring yourself to think of anything to draw. So she gave us some tips on how to sort of deal with that. And I just wanted to remind everyone that Danny and Kosha write a lot of articles in the schoolyard, and to definitely look for those in the discovery section when you tune in. And looks like we've got John and Julie and Dina saying hello, and Joanna, thank you all for joining. And I also just want to mention, for those of you that are new here, I just want to share with you that we have a little virtual swag bag that you can sign up for. It's in the description of this broadcast, and it will be posted in the student bulletin. But we have a swag bag going on right now that you can sign up to get via email. And if you've been with us for a while, you probably already have everything in this swag bag. But if you're new to Sketchbook Skool and maybe new to these broadcasts, definitely check out the link in the show description for today. We'll get you an ebook, a copy of our zine, and also a spot on the waiting list to join the schoolyard. So that's really exciting, and if you're new to Sketchbook Skool, check that out in the description of this video. Now, another idea that a student shared in the schoolyard this week that I loved, Christina Baker shared a sort of worksheet that might be kind of hard for you to see. I'll enlarge it a little bit. And she shared this worksheet for navigating Sketchbook Skool and all the things that we have to offer. And it was kind of like a little checklist for her for when it comes to making art and being creative. This allowed her to have a little report card about checking different activities and things and various pieces of content in the schoolyard. And I love that Christina is holding herself accountable and giving herself a little list of places to look for inspiration in Sketchbook Skool, on YouTube, and all over the creative communities that she's involved with. So I wanted to share this because I thought it was a really fun way to kind of give yourself a prompt list or an idea checklist of things to do when you want to make art. So thanks for sharing that, Christina. And it looks like Tina said that she uses Art to Frame out of New York for framing purposes. So Larry, if you're watching this right now, that's a great suggestion to check out. So thank you, Tina, for the suggestion. And now I also want to talk about another student project, that students have been sharing in the schoolyard. I've noticed repeatedly. Linda DeMario and Marion Weaver were two examples of people that are using the zoo as inspiration for their drawing. And I love drawing animals. I think it's a lot of fun. And I think if anyone has taken our beginning course and seen Roz's lessons, she gives us ways to capture animals in our sketchbook that can be really fun. And I think it's a really fun way to sort of document what you're seeing and also just get to know some of these crazy creatures a little bit better. So Marion did this lovely drawing of giraffes, and I loved it. And I actually went to this Amish animal sanctuary, random mix, in Ohio last weekend, and they had this big safari. I'm just going to show this page. They had this wagon ride where they had these longhorn steers, and this is the horse's butt. That was our view from the wagon, and a potbelly pig, which was really fun to draw. And I love drawing animals too, and it seemed to be coming up multiple times in the schoolyard this week. So thanks for Marion and Linda for sharing your zoo drawings. And looks like Steph is also going to the zoo this month to draw. It's kind of a good season for it as we get into fall. It's not as hot, maybe not as smelly if it's a little cooler. So check out the zoo, check out your local state fairs. And for those of you in rural areas, check out some of the pastures near where you live. And I think cows are beautiful and kind of fascinating creatures. So always something to draw, no matter where you are. That is true. And I also wanted to share, speaking of drawing animals, a student, Carla, she ended up doing this lovely printmaking project. And I'm going to enlarge this so you can see it. But she did a printmaking project of her Shar-Pei, which I loved her doing a printmaking image of her dog because I think that his wrinkles were really perfect for, lino cutting and printing in that way. So I really liked Carla doing that image of her dog as a printmaking project. The students in Sketchbook Skool are so creative and always finding other ways to make art, and that's one of my favorite things about this community. And it looks like we have Cynthia and Lorena and Steph, obviously, who joined us. Thanks for tuning in. And if I'm correct, I think Cynthia celebrated a birthday this past week, if I'm remembering right. So, Cynthia, if it was your birthday, happy birthday. I hope it was an awesome day and that maybe a trip to the art supply store was part of the itinerary. Thanks for tuning in. And one last thing that I wanted to share in terms of projects is that we had a student named Jenny who's been working on this for a while. She actually used a Sketchbook Skool lesson as inspiration as a teacher in her high school art class. And so this is just a sample lesson plan that she created based on Kosha's red thread lesson, the red thread drawing, in our course Imagining. And I love that Jenny was able to kind of use this to inspire her teaching of high school students. And I just love that idea, and she shared this lesson plan with us, which I've also shared in the SkoolYard in the educators group. So for those of you working with groups or groups in your community, I think it's awesome to see how Sketchbook Skool can kind of influence the art that you're making and the ideas that you're teaching. So thank you, Jenny, for sharing that. And I just want to wrap up with a mention of our meetups that are happening this weekend. So we've got John and the Crazines who are meeting up on the 7th at 10 a.m. at Lemon Street Gallery for their monthly art jam. So check that out. And then we also have our NorCal Sketchbook Buddies meeting up at Starbucks in Dixon, California. So definitely check that out if you are around. I am getting super excited to head to Chicago in November because I'm going to be visiting family in November in Chicago for Thanksgiving. And I think John and a couple other students are going to try to help me organize a meetup. So for people that can get to Chicago, Illinois at the end of November, I'm hoping to be there and to hang out and do some drawing. So on the note of meetups, just keep an eye on that as we roll into fall. And that is all that I have to report on this week. But I hope everyone is having an awesome Friday, whether you are starting your day off or you're winding it down. And I hope that you have a creative and exciting weekend. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye!